Krishna. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Utapatakamalам Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Swavadudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sya He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopisya Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Davaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanjakalpatarubhyascha Kirpa Sindhuvaevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Shashwat. Thank you for the wonderful Mangalacharan. We are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 5. And the text for today is text 7. Shashwin, are you able to read the text 7 and text 8?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Tvam pariyata.
No. Om Namo Bhagavate.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nasta Prayes Yam
Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Namashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Tvam Pariyatam Narka Eva Trilokim Antaskaro Vayurivatma Sakshi Paravari Brahmani Dharmato Vratai Nyunam Alam Vichasya Shri Narada Uvacha Bhavatanudita Prayam Yaso Bhagavato Yenaivasau Natushyeta Manye Tat Salam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shashwat, for reciting the text 7 and text 8. We can, Shama Vallabh Gopi Mataji, Hare Krishna, Peter Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, do you have the Srimad Bhagavatam with you?
Yes, Mataji. I will.
Okay. Hare Krishna Shree Gauranga Prabhuji. Dandvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept our humble obeisances on the behalf of people who have joined and who are about to join Prabhuji. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 5, and the text for today is text 7 and 8. Prabhuji, we have done the Manglacharan and we have read text 7 and text 8. Can we hand over to you, Prabhuji?
You
Hare Krishna.
finished the purport?
No, Prabhuji, we haven't read the purport. We've just read the text. Can we read the
You can
purport?
read the purport. Yeah.
Translation and purport.
Yes.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Translation and purport for text 7 of Canto 1, Chapter 5. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in 3 worlds. And like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive supersoul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulation and vows. Purport: transcendental realization, pious activities, worshipping the deities, charity, mercifulness, non-violence, and studying the scriptures under strict disciplinary regulations are always helpful. Text 8, translation, and Prabhuji, should I go on to text 8? Hare Krishna.
Yes, please go on to text 8.
Text 8, translation and purport. Translation: Sri Narada said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of personality of Godhead. That philosophy, which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord, is considered worthless." Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The eternal relation of an individual's soul with the Supreme Soul personality of Godhead is constitutionally one of being the eternal servitor of the eternal Master. The Lord has expanded himself as living beings in order to accept loving service from them, and this alone can satisfy both the Lord and the living beings. Such a scholar as Vyasadeva has completed many expansions of the Vedic literature, ending with the Vedanta philosophy, but none of them have been written directly glorifying the personality of Godhead. Dry philosophical speculations, even on a transcendental subject of the absolute, have very little attraction without directly dealing with the glorification of the Lord. The personality of the Godhead is the last word in transcendental realization. The absolute realized as impersonal Brahman or localized supersoul, Paramatma, is less productive of transcendental bliss than the supreme personal realization of his glories. The compiler of Vedanta Darshana is Vyasadeva himself, yet he is troubled, although he is the author. So what sort of transcendental bliss can be derived by the readers and listeners of Vedanta, which is not explained directly by Vyasadeva, the author? Herein arises the necessity of explaining Vedanta Sutra in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam by the self same author. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakayam Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone, and thank you all for joining today. In today's session we are looking at chapter 5, of course, going on from where we left. We heard how the sages of Naimisaranya asked Sutta Goswami about the Bhagavatam and how it was compiled. Who was the author? What events led to the Bhagavatam being compiled? They wanted to know all this. And so in the previous chapter, Sutta Goswami mentions how Vyasadeva, seeking welfare for the entire humanity and seeing that the age of Kali is approaching and how people will live in that age, decided to split the Vedas into 4. He gave them to his various disciples. The disciples expanded on that knowledge. He also wrote the Mahabharata and the other Puranas. And after all that, he wasn't happy with the work that he had done. He wasn't satisfied. And there was an emptiness he was feeling in the heart. And as he was feeling this, Narad Muni came. And so Narad Muni then asked him that you have written so much. You have written about the Brahman, and you've written about methods of self-realization. You've written the Mahabharata. Still, why are you not feeling happy? And so Vyasadeva said, yes, it is true, I've written all these things, but I don't know why I'm not feeling happy. You know everything. You're my guru. You're present everywhere. So please tell me the reason for my unhappiness. Here there is a very important point. Vyasadeva is the author of an entire branch of Vedic literature. Did he need a spiritual master? Let's even discount the fact that Vyasadeva wrote the Vedic literature. We know Vyasadeva is the incarnation of the Lord, empowered incarnation of the Lord. Did he need a spiritual master? So this is one point we need to consider. That Vyasadeva was so advanced in knowledge. We read earlier how he knew past, present, and future. And he knew how to help the entire humanity. Still, after doing all that, he got confused and he approaches a spiritual master. We see in the case of Arjuna as well. Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, before the war was about to begin, he approaches Lord Krishna and he tells Lord Krishna, I don't want to fight. And he gives so many reasons. They're all valid reasons. According to Arjuna's understanding of the scriptures, he quoted scriptural reasons, he quoted social reasons, he quoted on the basis of compassion and humanity. So many reasons he gave. But then at the end of all those, he found himself confused. Karpanya dosho pahata sabhava prichami tvam dharma samuda cheta yachreyasyan nishitan bruhitan me shishyaste hamshadi mantvam prapannam. Arjuna told Lord Krishna, I have lost all composure due to miserly weakness. I am confused. I don't know what to do. So you please tell me what you think is the best course of action for me to take. I am now surrendering unto you. I am your disciple. Please instruct me. So Arjuna also approached a guru. See, did he need to? Did he need to have a guru? But Arjuna is also showing us, because he is taking the part of us in this world. Therefore, he's showing us what is essential to have in this world. So although Arjuna knew all the scriptures, also he's approaching Lord Krishna for guidance. Similarly, Vyasadeva here, we're hearing he compiled everything. He even compiled the Vedanta. They need like a summary and they need it codified, and so therefore he wrote the Vedanta Sutra as well. But even after writing that, he still wasn't satisfied. So he approaches a spiritual master. He approached Narada Muni, and he's requesting Narada Muni, you know everything, you tell me. See, Vyasadeva did not try to figure it out on his own. Similarly, Arjuna he also didn't try to figure it out on his own. But when it comes to us, what do? We pick up the smartphone, go to google.com and try to, figure it out. They say Google is God these days. Anything you need to know, any information you need to have, or any advice you want to get, you just type it into the Google search box and you get all the answers. So Google has become guru. But Google cannot be guru like Narada Muni. Therefore, we see why Vyasadeva is asking Narada Muni those questions. No? He's saying, you know the heart. You can see past, present, and future, and you know what's in the heart as well. So you please tell me. You please tell me. So that's the first point that we need to consider. The importance of approaching a spiritual master. Lord Krishna himself tells us in the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna was being given instructions by the Lord, among the very first instructions the Lord gave to Arjuna was Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashtena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattradashina. Lord told Arjuna, just try to learn the truth by approaching a self-realized soul. Such people can impart knowledge on to you because they have seen the truth. They're tattvadashis. Therefore, if you want knowledge, then you have to approach a guru. That is the system instituted or recommended by the Lord himself. And therefore, we find that time and time again in the scriptures, this point comes up about that how various devotees, they approach the guru for guidance. Here we see Vyasadeva doing it. Although he was fully qualified, he had seen what is coming, and accordingly, what he thought was best for the generation to come, he divided the Vedas and he compiled all the Vedic literatures, but still ended up being confused. Now, this brings the second point. See, we're looking at how Vyasadeva is approaching a spiritual master for guidance. But the second point is that Vyasadeva, he did all this work and then he approached the guru. See? If he had approached the Guru right from the start, then this work may have been done differently. So that's the second point for consideration. When we're undertaking a major task, then we should approach the Guru first. So here Vyasadeva, he wrote everything, he compiled everything, and then in the end he was dissatisfied. Whereas we see with Dhruva Maharaj wanted to approach the Lord for some benediction, and he set out for the forest, and Narad Muni met him on the way. Narad Muni told Dhruva, "Oh, you're such a young boy. Do you even know what insult means?" Because Dhruva was so young. When Narad Muni met him, he said, "What's happened?" He said, "Oh, my stepmother insulted me." Narad Muni was like, "Do you even know what insult means? You're such a young boy. Go and play with your toys at home. Why are you going towards the forest?" "No, I have to see Lord Vishnu." Dhruva Maharaj was so determined. He said, "Are you going to help me or hinder me? If you're going to hinder me, then please move aside, let me go. And if you're going to help me, then help me." So Narad Muni, seeing the determination of Dhruva, he instructed Dhruva to perform devotional service. And with those instructions, when Dhruva followed them, within 6 months, he saw the Lord face to face. There was no disappointment for Dhruva because he followed the instructions of the spiritual master right from the start. See? Here we see Vyasadeva, he wrote everything, then he got disappointed. So if we're going to undertake an activity and we don't consult the spiritual master, then most likely we will also end up in disappointment. So 1, yes, we have to approach a spiritual master. 2, do it before, not after. And we see here in the case of Vyasadeva, the results that happened when the spiritual master was not consulted. So now we are hearing that he is asking Narad Muni, "Please tell me, where have I gone wrong? Why am I feeling unhappy?" And Narad Muni immediately tells him, "Because you have given stress to everything apart from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have not spotlessly described and glorified the Lord exclusively. And this is the reason for your dissatisfaction." Immediately Narad Muni answered him. He didn't beat around the bush. So he told Vyasadeva, "Because you have not written about the Supreme Lord, therefore you are dissatisfied." And this is the third point I'd like us to consider. That if we want to feel happy, then we have to connect it, whatever we're doing, we have to connect that with the Lord. Therefore, the Lord tells us in Bhagavad Gita, "Yat karoshi yadashnashi yat juhoshi tadasyat yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam." Whatever you one does, whatever one eats, whatever one offers or gives away, whatever austerities and charities one performs, we have to do that as a service to Krishna. Unless and until we connect our activities with Krishna, there will always be dissatisfaction. In the Shree Ishopanishad, and I think Aldoret Yatra should have done this before the Bhagavatam, the Ishopanishad. So in the Shree Ishopanishad, it is being explained that the Lord is complete. And you may know this very famous shloka. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. The Lord is the complete whole. Everything that emanates from the Lord is also complete in itself. And even though complete units have come out from the complete whole, the Lord still remains complete. It's not like we have a big piece of paper, you tear it into small pieces. Yes, on the small pieces you can write, it's a complete small piece, but then there is no big paper. No, that's not how the Lord is. He is complete, even though so many complete units have come out from him. So the Ishopanishad explains that the feeling of incompleteness that we are experiencing is because we have broken our connection with the complete. Just like a branch of a tree, if you cut it, it lies on the side of the road and it will dry up. It will not get nourishment because it is cut off from the tree. Similarly, if we cut off our finger will also dry up and rot because there is no connection with the body. As long as the finger is connected to the body or the branch is connected to the tree, it will be alive, it will be nourished. But as soon as that connection is cut off, then it is useless. See? So we are feeling incomplete because we have broken our connection with the complete. And therefore, with Vyasadeva also, we see Narad Muni saying the same thing. You have not written about the Lord, meaning you have not connected with the Lord exclusively, and therefore you are unhappy. We are all experiencing this feeling of incompleteness, as Vyasadeva is experiencing here, incomplete and unhappy. We all experience it. Some people try to forget that they are feeling incomplete by taking intoxication, whether it's a cigarette, whether it's beer, alcohol, or whether it's hard drugs. Depending on how incomplete one is feeling, the extent to which one is feeling incomplete, that extent one tries to forget by engaging in intoxication. Some people, they try to complete that incompleteness through relationships. They love to be social. Oh, I have to have friends, I have to have family members, I have to have a society I belong to, I have to have, very much being surrounded by people because these people complete me. So those, according to the modes of nature that we are in, those in Tamogun will try to forget about the incompleteness that they're feeling by engaging in. Those who are in the mode of passion, they very much engage in sense gratificatory activities, have society, friendship, love that they need from others. They can't think of life without others. Those in the mode of goodness, they will try to fulfill this incompleteness by going through the path of knowledge and trying and absorbing themselves in the knowledge that all this is temporary. We need to find a permanent solution. Let us meditate on that which is inconceivable, that which is eternal, so it's like Brahman meditation and things like that. If we analyze our lives also, or rather we can analyze our lives currently and see, are we feeling incomplete? Are we feeling unhappy? And how are we trying to manage that incompleteness or that unhappiness? And then let us reflect on, when we are performing Krishna consciousness, do we experience happiness? What kind of happiness is that? And how does it make us complete? So if we're being honest, then we'll see, oh yes, actually, if we engage in Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day, then there is no feeling of incompleteness because we are connecting with the complete whole. See, we're connecting with Krishna. And therefore, because we are connecting with Krishna, Krishna is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. He is the form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. because we connect with Krishna, we get access to that bliss. That bliss is so indescribable and unquantifiable that automatically we become happy and we become complete. So therefore, Narad Muni is saying to Vyasadeva here, you need to write exclusively about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only then will you feel happy. Only then will you feel complete. And this should be our meditation. Whatever unhappiness we are feeling, if we are feeling, or sometimes we may be in a situation where we mistake the unhappiness for happiness. I was recently reading an article. It was in the news, somehow shocking news, that there was this teacher in India, and he filed a case against his wife in the court. And what was the case? The case was that the wife was beating him, and he endured that situation for a number of years. So when the court asked him why you didn't report this earlier, he said, no, I'm a teacher and it reflects bad on my image. So I thought it was a temporary thing, but now I've been abused so much that I am mentally weak and I am emotionally, distraught. And so I cannot tolerate this anymore. So I was just thinking, look at this person. He stayed in that situation for a number of years, mistaking the unhappiness to be happiness. Oh yes, okay, she's frustrated, she's hitting me, whatever. It's okay, I'm still good. See? So we tend to sugarcoat things, or we tend to overlook things. We tend to mistake unhappiness for happiness. Srila Prabhupada gives the story of a person who's in the hospital bed, and we have Dr. Kirtika here, she can attest to it. He has tubes going through his nostrils. He has tubes coming out from his stomach and from various parts of the body, and they're pumping him drugs through the drips and all that. And the relatives go and they ask that person, so how are you? And he'll go, yeah, he can't even raise his arms, and he'll try and say, yeah, I'm good, I'm okay. What, you're okay? So Srila Prabhupada says, this is our situation. Whatever happiness we're experiencing here, it's actually not happiness, right? But we're mistaking unhappiness to be happiness. So we're all suffering from birth, death, old age, disease, right? We are suffering from mental distress. We're suffering from distress caused by other living entities. We're suffering from natural disturbances. I mean, look at America. People just go there and shoot everyone randomly. And I don't know why people want to go to America. They probably want to go and end up getting shot there. It's just common thing. Every day you hear, oh, these many people have died because of a shooting. So many troubles, but still we think, no, it's okay. This is life. This is part of, life. Therefore, we simply do not know what happiness is. And we see Vyasadeva in the Vedas, he's recommending fruitive activities, he's recommending the path of knowledge according to the modes of material nature. We know, of course, there are 18 major Puranas. They're split into 666 for all the three modes. They're the Puranas for those in the mode of ignorance, they're the Puranas for the modes of passion, and then there's Puranas for those who are in the mode of goodness. And accordingly, Vyasadeva trying to help everyone, wherever you are, from whatever state you want to progress, there is a recommendation for you in the Vedas. And what are the recommendations? Okay, so if you want to become powerful, You worship Indra, these are the rules and regulations you have to follow, these are the rituals you have to do, and in this way, if you please that demigod, then you will get the result. And so because people want that, they'll do a special worship, they'll do a special fast, so that they enjoy in this life and they enjoy in the next life. They get to go to heaven and enjoy in the next life. Those are the karmis. They're not just satisfied enjoying here, so-called enjoyment, of course, but they want to also enjoy in the next life. So therefore, they follow the prescription of the Vedas, because the Vedas, they tell us activities to do here right now so that we can benefit in the next life. Whereas those who don't follow the Vedas, they come up with the philosophy that there's nothing after death. Everything is here right now. So no need to follow anything, no need to do anything, just eat, sleep, be happy. Right? A hedonistic kind of philosophy. Just enjoy as much as you can right now and forget about the rest. But those who are followers of the Vedas, they say, oh no, why should we enjoy it now and then suffer later? We'll enjoy it now and we also want to enjoy in the future. So we'll go to the heavenly planets. We'll work hard now, we get results here, and we also get results there. Then the Gyanis, they say, no, why go even to the heavenly planets? It's going to get destroyed. It's still birth, death, old age, disease are there. Just get out completely. Brahma Sukha. We get happiness in the Brahman platform, which is above the material world. We transcend this material world. So that's the Gyanis. Our mystic powers, becoming smaller than the smallest, taller than or larger than the largest, lighter than the lightest, etc., etc. They get allured by this mystic power so that they can get cheap fame and adoration from everyone. Then those who are serious yogis, they'll meditate on the Paramatma, or the super soul within the heart. And of course, the devotees, they go and enter into the abode of the Supreme Lord. So the Vedas, and we'll read later, Vyasadeva is being told by Narada Muni that you've actually given people an excuse to stay in the material world. Because you're telling them how to be happy here and how to be happy also in the next life. So you're actually encouraging them to stay here rather than encouraging them to get out. Therefore, you're feeling unhappy because you're not connected with Krishna. So for us, what does this mean is, if we look at our life, as I was mentioning earlier, we analyze, where are we feeling incomplete? How are we trying to negate that incompleteness through relationships, through possessions, like when long time back, I was in a particular situation. There were some people that were coming to meet me. So you find that they come very well dressed, coat, tie, everything, nicely ironed. And then the guy comes and he puts on the table, he puts a BMW keychain with a key attached to it. Right. So you're supposed to kind of expect that this person owns a very expensive car. Another person came, he put a Mercedes keychain with a key attached to it. Right. And it was like a business transaction. So we had our meeting, they left. So I'm looking from the window, and then I see the two guys, they're walking. I'm wondering, if they came with car keys, why are they walking? And then I see them boarding a matatu. Then I understood this is simply a sales tactic. You don't have a car, but you buy a keychain of a BMW or Mercedes with a car key and you put it on the table. So the other party thinks, oh, this party is very rich. So some people try to fill that incompleteness with possessions. If I only get a car, I'll be happy. If I only get a house in a very upmarket area, I'll be happy. If I only get this visa to go to this other country, I'll be happy. We're feeling incomplete, we're feeling that unhappiness, and we're trying to negate it by possessions or by, if I only get some children, or if I only get some relatives, or if I only get a wife, or if only this relationship is going smoothly, then I'll be happy. And we try so many things. We try to change our living situation. We try to change our friend circles. We try to change our income sources. And it's a constant juggle. The whole life is just trying to adjust here, trying to adjust there, trying to adjust everything so that we can become complete or we can become happy. But only when we connect to Lord Krishna, that's the only time we'll feel complete. Therefore, you find devotees can stay under a tree. They don't need anything. Our Goswamis of Vrindavan, they wouldn't even stay under the same tree every night. It would be a different tree every night. Because they had Krishna, they had everything, they were complete. They didn't feel any inadequacy. They didn't feel any unhappiness. They were happy. Simply connecting with Lord Krishna. So therefore, Narad Muni is telling Vyasadeva here, right from the start, the first thing you have done is you have not exclusively written about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore you're feeling unhappy. And no matter how much work you do, no matter how many things you write, as long as you do not do this one thing of connecting with the Lord, you are not going to be happy. Therefore, if we want to be complete, we have to connect to Krishna. He is the complete whole. How do we connect to Krishna? Through the process of devotional service. What does the process of devotional service mean? It means we chant his holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right? When we chant the Lord's holy name, then we are connecting with the Lord. And through that holy name, we get a feeling of completeness and happiness. Therefore, the very first verse of Shastakam is Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreyakaira Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamitasvaranam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate. Shree says this process of chanting is Anandam Buddhivardhanam. It's an ocean of bliss if we can access it. So when we sit to chant, we can actually access this ocean of bliss and connect with Krishna and feel complete, feel happy. That is the recommendation of Narad Muni to Vyasadeva in this particular verse. That you connect your audience to Lord Krishna. You write about Lord Krishna exclusively. And then it will become complete. So actually later on we'll learn that Vyasadeva, he revises the Bhagavad Puran after hearing from Narad Muni and after getting instructions from Narad Muni. Vyasadeva goes back and he revises the Bhagavad Puran, removes out all those unnecessary things and simply leaves Krishna. And that's the second verse of the Bhagavatam. Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapantrayon moolanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni krite kim va parer ishvara sadhyoridya varudyate trakritibi shushrubhistakshram. Mahamuni krite. That particular words in that verse mean in his maturity. Vyasadeva in his maturity compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. And what did he do? Dharma projita kaitava. He threw away all cheating religions and only left Krishna. So we know from other sources that actually Bhagavad Puran was written. But after this conversation with Narad Muni, he went back, he revised it, he cut out everything that was not needed and left only Krishna, and therefore became happy. So I think we read earlier in the second chapter or the first chapter, Vyasadeva, after writing all the Vedic literature, particularly the Vedas and their branches, he decided that this needs to be codified and summarized. He wrote the Vedanta Sutra, which is a commentary on the Vedas. And then he thought, no, the Vedanta Sutra is also very difficult to decipher. So therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which is a commentary on the Vedas. And therefore we hear how Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the entire Vedic knowledge. So simply if we stick to Srimad Bhagavatam, then what will happen? Number one, we get all the Vedic knowledge. Number two, Vyasadeva compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam in his maturity. So after having all that realization and all the visions that he had, we'll read about the visions in chapter 7 later on. We get access to the very topmost of knowledge. And number three, we become happy. Because Vyasadeva was happy after compiling it. In the 12th canto, towards the end of the canto, Sukadeva Goswami speaks about the various results one gets by hearing the Bhagavatam. Right? So happiness is one of them, because Vyasadeva, after the Bhagavatam, he didn't compile anything else. He taught it to Sukadeva Goswami, and Sukadeva Goswami then spoke it to Parikshit Maharaj, in which assembly, the same assembly, Suta Goswami was present. He heard it, and then he spoke it to the sages of Naimisaranya. Yeah. So we looked at a couple of points for reflection. Number one, the importance of approaching a spiritual master. Number two, before carrying out our tasks or before carrying out our activities, we should seek the guidance of the spiritual master. Number three, that only when we connect with the Supreme Lord can we become happy, can we become complete. Up until that point, all our efforts will go in vain, because we will always remain unhappy and incomplete. So I'll leave some time for questions. If there are any, you can ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for today's session and explaining to us these 3 points about approaching our spiritual master when we have problems, and doing, especially when we are doing something big. And then the most important point is that only when we connect to the complete, which is Supreme Lord, will we feel complete. And I guess everybody has this feeling of incompleteness. Prabhuji, I have a question. Prabhuji, I know of various people who any small thing they will go and ask their guru, should we do this or not? Should we put the gate of the house in this direction, or should we have should we donate here, or should we eat this? So Prabhuji, isn't that doing too much, asking each and for each and every step?
Okay, thank you for your question. Yes, we find Narad Muni is coming to Vyasadeva, but Vyasadeva is not asking Narad Muni that, am I feeling sad because my heart is not facing in the right direction, or am I feeling sad? Of course, when we are approaching a spiritual master, we only ask the spiritual master questions that are directly related to our spiritual life. See? And that can help us progress more on the path of bhakti. So ideally, yes, major decisions should be asked. What might be major also is subjective, like change of ashram, change of situation, change of service also. These kind of things should be consulted with the spiritual master. But yes, where to eat and what to eat. What to eat has already been told to us by the spiritual master in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam. Where to eat also. Those things, they are readily available. Those guidance is accessible by reading the Srila Prabhupada's books, But yeah, in terms of like Vastu Shastra and all those kind of things, it's really not necessary if we are chanting and reading the books. The books have most of the knowledge that we need. The spiritual master is necessary to help us apply that knowledge of the books into our practical lives. So there, on those matters, the spiritual master has to be consulted. How to practically apply what we're reading into our own life. See? And that's why the spiritual master is very, very necessary. But other things that are of trivial nature, those you don't need to bother. Like one time Srila Prabhupada was sitting on a train with his disciples. They were going from one city to another in India. And people came. In India, trains are really long and they have many, many people in them. So people came to the train and they found Prabhupada there. And so they started asking, oh Prabhupada, please give us your blessings. Please give us some ashirvad. Please give us your blessings. And Srila Prabhupada said, do you really need my blessings? They said, yes, please give me your blessings. We want sadhu's blessings. It's very nice. We want the blessings. So then Srila Prabhupada pointed to all his disciples. They were all with shaved head, sitting in dhoti kurta, with kantimala and tilla, and said, this is my blessing. You still want it? If I bless you, this is how you're going to end up. Do you still want it? So they quietly kind of like just nodded their heads and slowly just left, because they didn't want those blessings. They wanted blessings, may your bank balance increase, may your health be okay, may your relationships flourish, blah, 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 right? So on those matters, of course, no need going to the spiritual master. Because first of all, the spiritual master will not also bless on those matters. We go to a spiritual master and consult on the basis of our spiritual life. We have accepted a spiritual master. So it means spiritual means it has to do with spiritual life. And the decisions that will affect that spiritual life of ours. Those are the matters we need to consult with. Not on every small detail. Yeah. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much for that guidance. Are there any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your nice class. Prabhuji, can you please, there is a doubt, like here, can you difference between Vedanta and Vedanta Sutra? Please give some example so that it is easy for us to understand.
Okay, so Veda was one, right? That was split into four. So the original Veda was Yajur Veda, which was split into four: Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva. Vedanta is the conclusion of the Vedas, right? What is expected to be obtained by studying the Vedas, Vedanta. So Vedanta and Vedanta Sutra are synonymous. They're not different. Because Vedanta Sutra just means the conclusion of the Vedas that is codified. Sutra is just a few words. Like the first Vedanta Sutra is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Just 3 words. And then Janmad Yasya Yataha. Right? Then Shastra Yonitvat. So Vedanta Sutra is codified for the conclusion of the Vedas. And therefore, we find Srimad Bhagavatam starts with Janma Dyasya Yataha. It is a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva. It's a commentary on the end conclusion of the Vedas, and that conclusion is Krishna. Vedescha sarver aham eva vidyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. By all the Vedas I am to be known. I am the compiler of the Vedas and I am the conclusion of the Vedas. Lord Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita. So Veda means knowledge. Vedanta means the conclusion of that knowledge. Vedanta Sutra is that conclusion that is codified, that is summarized in just a few words. And when Vyasadeva codified that, he expected people just to read that and understand, but then he found that this is a very tall order. Therefore, he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam as a commentary to the Vedanta Sutras. Is that okay, Parth Prem Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, it is a yes, good for explanation. But one thing is that, Prabhuji, before also your class and other class, we know Veda means that is a whole knowledge. Like there is a archery, there is military, there is a physics, a chemistry, biology, everything. So point is that, for example, archery or military science. So that conclusion is Vedanta, how it is connected to the Krishna, the conclusion, Vedanta Sutra, but this is the separate military training or something. But Vedanta Sutra, what we are learning in Bhagavatam, that is a devotional service. So how it is related to?
Yes. So Veda, yes, means all knowledge, but specifically when we talk about Jyotir Veda or Ayurveda or Dhanur Veda, these are like Upavedas, they're sub branches of the Vedic knowledge. At the end of it all, the entire source of knowledge is Lord Krishna. Even whether it is military science, whether it's Ayurveda, whether it's Jyotish, whatever knowledge we have, it has come from Krishna. Knowledge of this material world, knowledge of the spiritual world, knowledge of our relationship with the material world, knowledge of our relationship with the Supreme Lord, knowledge of the Supreme Lord's relationship with the material world, and whatever other sub branches are there. As we read in chapter 4, that Vyasadeva entrusted these various branches of the Vedas to his disciples and they expanded it. But the source is the Lord. Veda is known as Apurusheya. Apurusheya means it has no created source. It has no human source. It is from the Lord himself. It is free from defects. So therefore, by studying, even if someone studies Ayurveda, for example, Ayurveda has prescriptions of meditating on the Lord as part of maintaining good health. See, Jyotish also, in the remedies we look at, they have prescriptions for worshipping the Lord. See, so through any branch of knowledge, ultimately we end up with the Lord. Therefore, he is Vedanta. The knowledge stops when we get to the Lord. There is nothing above the Lord. Everything comes from him. All knowledge is from him. And by studying the Vedas, one has to come to the conclusion of the Lord. But what happens is that because the Vedas are so vast, people get lost. Or they get diverted. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadyantya vipattita. They get diverted by the flowery words of the Vedas, that they don't look for the conclusion, then they just divert themselves into karma kand and all these other activities. But the end of all Vedas is definitely Lord Krishna. Whether we approach through military science, or whether we approach through Jyotish, or whether you approach through Ayurveda, any of the Upavedas, or the Vedas directly, or the sub branches of the Vedas, anywhere you touch from, end will be Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We have 1 more minute left. Are there any questions or comments? There are no more questions or comments. Then I'll hand over to Bharat.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, yes,
It's
sure.
just a question which Vishaka raised yesterday. Is to do with Ved Vyas. Actually, Ved Vyas is the empowered incarnation of the Lord. And because he's empowered incarnation of the Lord, why didn't he bring Krishna at the beginning instead of bringing Vedas? We know that Narad Muni did that. When quite a lot of people get confused to say, oh, Veda is the origin, then this Vedanta came afterwards. So I just wanted the views of Gauranga Prabhuji, how to best answer that question.
So the question is, why did Vyasdev introduce the Vedas first rather than the Vedanta? Is that the question?
That's right. Yeah, why did he? Because he's the empowered incarnation of the Lord himself. So he has got all the knowledge. So that's the question. How best
So,
to
yes,
answer that question?
as I mentioned, the Vedanta means the conclusion. You don't, when you're writing a book, you don't start with the conclusion and then you explain later on. You explain everything, then at the end you write a conclusion. So Vedanta Sutra is simply the conclusion of the Vedas, right? So it, in a logical sense, Vyasadeva approached it very logically, and he gave all the information, and then at the end he gave the conclusion. That was the Vedanta. Right? Whereas Narad Muni was telling him, okay, you didn't even need to do all that. You should have just started with Bhagavatam and left only it dealing with solely with Krishna. Because anyway, we don't have time to read through all the Vedas and read this conclusion, So like you have a very big book. There is chapters and chapters of information, then there is a summary at the end. But then what, if you can't read the whole thing, then you have a book summary, right? Wherein the person who writes the book summary takes main points from the entire book, including the conclusion, and presents it in like 1 or 2, or depending on the length of the book, in 5 or 6 pages, right? So you don't have to read thousands of pages, you just read 5 or 6 pages. So when it comes to Vedic knowledge, we don't have to go through the entire literature of the Vedas. We can simply stick to Bhagavatam. And when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we get the cream of the entire Vedic knowledge, and what is really important, that is what is being talked about in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so therefore we just focus on that, right? Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. If you would have done Srimad Bhagavatam from the beginning, it would have saved a lot of confusion with people.
Exactly. And therefore we discussed today that he didn't approach his spiritual master before doing this. And therefore he, so therefore we should approach spiritual master, and we may save time. We may save a lot of effort also.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I say a special shout out to Brijesh Prabhu. He's joining us from the School of Bhakti there. I don't know if he's the same Brijesh that I know, but the name is the same.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. I don't know how you ended up here, but I'm glad you're here. Thank you, Brijesh Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
He is our mentor on Tuesday. He comes to us on Tuesday.
Oh, wow. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, before we conclude this session, can I ask one short question, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhuji, in ISKCON or in Gaudiya Parampara, we give importance on Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. But the another source of Ramayana, it is also authentic source written by Valmiki and glorifying Lord Ram. Then why not we are giving too much importance on that?
So the question is, why don't we give importance to Ramayana? And my question is, who said we don't give importance to Ramayana?
Because in ISKCON all is Bhagavatam and Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam and Bhagavatam. occasionally we read the
Yes.
Ramayana.
You see, Ramayana, if we don't understand who Krishna is and we read about his pastime, we're not going to get much. See? So we see Shukdev Goswami also gave importance to Ramayana, but it was all the way in the 9th canto. Yeah. All the way in the 9th canto. So approach is that understand the tattva first. Vyasadev's approach in the Bhagavatam is also that. Understand the tattva, understand who Krishna is first, and then we can get into his pastimes. Whether as Lord Ram or whether as Lord Krishna. So we do give importance to Valmiki Ramayana, but at the same time, because we know Lord Krishna is the source of all incarnations, and we want to enter into Golok Vrindavan, the mood is that of entering into Golok Vrindavan. Therefore, emphasis is on Lord Krishna. But we know his form as Lord Ram is non-different. You see, even Mahaprabhu, when he manifested Satbhuj Gauranga, 2 arms were of Lord Ram, 2 arms were of Lord Krishna, right? But our mood is to enter into Lord Krishna's pastimes in Golok Vrindavan. There is nothing wrong if someone has a mood of entering into Ayodhya or Saket Dham rather, and entering into Lord Ram's pastimes. We see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Murari Gupta was Lord Ram's Bhakta. And even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, you chant Krishna, Krishna, he came back the next day and he said, I can't. My Lord is Ram. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, that's completely fine. We just wanted to test your faith. We wanted to test your devotion. And you've passed the test. So there is no diminishing the value of Ramayana, provided that you have the authentic Valmiki Ramayana, which is not interpreted by someone, but actually the authentic Valmiki Ramayana in Sanskrit, and that you understand Sanskrit, and that you are interpreting that Sanskrit correctly, then there's no issue, right? The issues come in with the interpretation. See, therefore we are fortunate that we have the Bhagavad Gita, but we have our Acharya's interpretation and Srila Prabhupada's interpretation, and we are following that. So if you have a Paramparik Ramayana by authorized Vaishnavas, then there is no issue. If someone is attracted to Lord Ram, they can wish Lord Ram and meditate on Ramayana and enter his pastimes. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Prabhuji. It's okay, Prabhu. Thank you. So, can we conclude the session, Mataji? Yeah, thank you very much, Sri Gauranga Prabhuji, for your busy schedule. You are giving your precious time to us. We are so grateful to you. I request all the devotees, please unmute yourself and chant Hare Krishna mantra for glorification of His grace, Sri Gauranga Prabhuji. Please join.
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vansha Kalpa
Tubhyascha
कृपा
kripa
सिन्धुभ्य
sindhubhya
एव
eva
च
cha
पतितानां
patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो
namo
नमो
namaha.
नमः
Srila Prabhupada
Prabhupada
ki
ki jai,
His grace Sri Gauranga Prabhu ki
Prabhu ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari
Hare
Om.
Hare.
Thank you very much, Brajesh Prabhu, for joining as well. Thank you very much. It encourages us when others join us.